Naomi, a young nurse, walked slowly out of the hospital gate after her long shift. The sky was turning orange with the setting sun, and the cool evening breeze brushed against her tired face. Her back ached from hours of standing, and her feet longed for rest, but her heart was light. Helping patients gave her a sense of purpose. Even on days when she was exhausted, Naomi always reminded herself that kindness was her greatest strength. She believed that no good act was ever wasted. She unlocked her small bicycle from the stand outside the hospital. It was old but strong, and it had carried her through many streets, rains, and sunny days. She mounted it and began to ride through the narrow roads toward her small rented room. The market was closing and shopkeepers were pulling down their stalls. Children played on the corners, their laughter filling the evening air. Naomi breathed deeply, enjoying the peace after the noise of the hospital. As she rode further down a quieter street, her eyes caught something unusual. On the side of the road stood an old man. His hair was white, his clothes simple and slightly dusty, and his shoes looked worn from walking too far. He stood still, looking around as if the world had suddenly turned strange. Naomi slowed down, curiosity pulling her closer. When she stopped near him, she spoke gently. "Good evening, sir. Are you all right?" The old man turned to her, his eyes tired yet kind. "Child," he said softly, I cannot find my way home." His voice trembled with both confusion and sadness. Naomi looked at him closely. He carried no bag, no phone, not even a walking stick. His shirt was buttoned wrongly, as if his hands had been shaking when he dressed. She felt a tug in her heart. Something about him reminded her of the patients she cared for, especially the elderly who often felt forgotten. "Do you remember where you live?" she asked kindly. The old man shook his head slowly. "I thought I knew, but the roads look different. My memory is not as strong as before." He rubbed his forehead as if trying to force the answer out. Naomi's heart ached. She couldn't imagine leaving him alone on the empty street. He looked vulnerable, like a child lost in a marketplace. "Don't worry," she said softly. "I will help you." The old man smiled faintly, relief flashing in his eyes. "You are very kind. Many people passed me today, but no one stopped." Naomi thought about that. She knew how busy and self-centered people could be, rushing to their homes, ignoring strangers in need. But she couldn't ignore him. Something deep inside her told her that helping him was important. She got down from her bicycle and stood beside him. "Maybe if we walk a little, something will look familiar to you," she suggested. The old man nodded slowly. "Yes, maybe the road will remind me." Naomi pushed her bicycle gently as they walked side by side. She asked him small questions, hoping to jog his memory. "What does your house look like? Do you remember a name of a street? A shop nearby?" He frowned, trying hard to remember. "There were trees, big trees. And a blue gate. My daughter, she used to visit me there." Naomi listened carefully. His clues were small, but she kept them in mind. She noticed his steps were slow and his hands shook slightly. She offered her arm and he held it, leaning on her as they walked. For a while, silence filled the street. Only the sound of Naomi's bicycle wheels turning beside them broke the quiet. Naomi thought about her own grandfather who had passed away years ago. He too had once lost his way in the neighborhood. She remembered how frightened he had been when they finally found him. That memory made her even more determined to help this stranger. "Sir," she said gently, "if you get too tired, I can give you a ride on my bicycle. It's not much, but it will carry us." The old man looked at her with surprise. "On your bicycle? You would carry me?" Naomi smiled warmly. "Why not? You are not heavy. And I cannot leave you wandering here." For the first time the old man laughed softly. "In all my years I have never ridden on the back of a bicycle. Perhaps today is the day." Naomi chuckled, happy to see him relax. She leaned her bicycle to the side and helped him climb onto the small seat behind. It wasn't easy, his legs shook and he almost slipped, but Naomi held him steady. When he was finally settled, she began to pedal slowly. The street was quiet, and the sound of the wheels on the road echoed gently. Naomi pedaled carefully, mindful of the old man's balance. He held onto the sides of the seat, his laughter breaking through once more. "Ah, this is strange, but I feel like a boy again." Naomi smiled as she pedaled. "Then hold on tight. We'll find your home together." They passed shops, small houses, and dusty paths. People stared at the sight, a young nurse carrying an old man on her bicycle, but Naomi didn't care. She only cared about the man behind her, who trusted her enough to ride with her. The old man began pointing as they rode. "This way, yes, I remember this corner. The trees, they look familiar." His voice grew excited, like a child recognizing a long-lost toy. Naomi followed his directions, her heart pounding with hope. She wanted to succeed, to give him peace. She didn't know who he was or why he had been wandering alone, but she knew that no one deserved to be lost. As the evening darkened, they reached a road lined with tall trees. The old man leaned forward, his eyes widening. Yes, this is it. My home is near. Naomi slowed her bicycle, her face glowing with relief. She had trusted her heart, and it was leading them to the right place. In that moment, she had no idea that the man behind her was not just an old stranger. She had no idea that he carried a life story far greater than she imagined. For now, she was only a nurse who had offered kindness to someone in need. And yet, this simple act of kindness was about to change her life forever. Naomi looked at the old man with gentle eyes. He seemed tired, his thin hands shaking a little as he tried to steady himself. She noticed his shoes were worn out, the laces loose and the soles almost gone. She felt a wave of compassion. She had met many patients during her work as a nurse, but there was something about this man that touched her heart deeply. Perhaps it was the way his eyes carried a mixture of sadness and confusion, or perhaps it was the quiet dignity in the way he stood even while lost. Since Naomi didn't own a car, she only had her old bicycle with her. It wasn't much, just a simple bike she used to ride back and forth from work every day. She thought quickly and then offered kindly, "Sir, please sit carefully on the back of my bicycle. I will walk it slowly and take you home." At first, the old man hesitated. He looked at her, unsure if it was right to trouble a young woman after a long day of work. But Naomi insisted, smiling softly, "Don't worry, I don't mind. You will be safe." Her voice was calm and reassuring, like the way she spoke to her patients in the hospital. The old man finally agreed. He sat gently on the small carrier of the bicycle, holding onto the edge so he wouldn't fall. Naomi pushed the bike along the narrow street, one careful step at a time. She could feel the weight of the bicycle was heavier than usual, but she did not complain. Instead, she kept walking, determined to help him. As they moved forward, people on the road began to stare. Some smiled in surprise, some whispered to each other, and some even shook their heads. It was not every day they saw a young nurse pushing her bicycle with an old man sitting behind. But Naomi paid no attention. Her focus was only on him. She thought, if this were my father or my grandfather, I would hope someone would show him kindness. At first, the old man was very quiet. He kept his eyes low, perhaps embarrassed that a stranger had to help him in this way. But after a while, he slowly lifted his head and looked at Naomi. She was still pushing the bike with steady hands, her forehead shining with sweat, but her face calm. "Why are you helping me?" he asked softly, his voice almost breaking. Naomi smiled again, still walking. "Because you need help, sir. And I believe no one should be left alone when they are lost. It is a simple thing to do, and I am glad to do it." The old man stared at her for a moment, and then something changed in his face. The sadness seemed to lift even just a little. His lips curved into a small smile, the kind that comes from deep gratitude. "You remind me of my daughter," he whispered. "She used to care for me in the same way." Naomi's heart warmed at his words. She did not ask about the daughter, not yet, but she felt a silent bond grow between them. As she kept pushing the bike, she began talking softly, asking him simple questions. His name, where he thought his home might be, and what he remembered about the streets. He struggled a little with his memory, pausing often, but slowly he gave her small details. Landmarks, the color of a gate, the sound of a nearby church bell. Naomi listened carefully. She was patient, never rushing him. She encouraged him gently, nodding with every word. The evening sun was setting, painting the sky in soft orange and pink colors. The long shadows of the houses stretched across the road, and the cool breeze touched their faces. It was a peaceful scene, but Naomi felt a sense of responsibility heavier than the bicycle itself. She thought of her own family, how sometimes old people are left behind, forgotten, or ignored. She silently promised herself that she would not allow this man to feel abandoned. As they walked further, some children ran past them, laughing and pointing. Naomi smiled at them, not bothered. She knew children often found joy in small things. One of them even shouted, "Nurse, are you giving your grandpa a ride?" Naomi only waved kindly, while the old man chuckled softly at the innocent remark. It was the first time he laughed that evening, and the sound gave Naomi hope. Soon the man began to talk more. He told Naomi about small moments from his past, how he once loved the ocean, how he planted trees in his youth, and how he missed sitting in the evenings listening to birds. His voice carried both joy and regret, but Naomi listened without judgment. She nodded, asked simple questions and made him feel valued. "You are very kind," he said again. "The world needs more people like you." Naomi did not feel like she was doing something extraordinary. To her, this was just humanity, just compassion. Yet she also knew that small acts sometimes made the biggest difference. After nearly an hour of walking with the bicycle, the old man suddenly pointed at a distant street. His eyes brightened. "I think that is the way," he exclaimed with surprising energy. Naomi felt relief. She turned the bicycle in that direction, walking a little faster now. The road was quieter here, lined with old trees and small houses. At the end of the street, a gate painted in blue appeared. The old man's eyes filled with tears. Yes, this is it. This is my home," he whispered, his voice trembling. Naomi felt her chest tighten with emotion. She had managed to bring him back. She stopped the bicycle, letting him step down carefully. He walked slowly to the gate, his hands shaking as he touched it, as though it was the most precious thing in the world. Turning back to Naomi, he smiled widely. "You did not just bring me home. You brought me peace tonight." Naomi felt her eyes grow moist, but she kept her smile. "I am glad you are safe now, sir," she said softly. The old man nodded, still smiling, and added, "One day, young lady, you will see that kindness never goes unnoticed. You may not know now, but this small act will change your life." Naomi did not understand what he meant. She only bowed her head slightly, ready to leave. She thought her part in his story was over. Little did she know, this was only the beginning of something far greater than she could imagine. As the road stretched before them, the evening breeze grew cooler. Naomi kept pushing her bicycle with steady steps, and the old man sat comfortably at the back. The quiet between them was gentle, not heavy, like two people who did not need to rush. After a long moment, the old man turned his head slightly and asked, "Tell me about yourself, child. What is your name?" Naomi smiled as she kept her eyes on the road. "My name is Naomi," she replied softly. "I am a nurse at the community hospital nearby." The old man nodded slowly, repeating her name as though trying to remember it. "Naomi. It is a good name. And you are a nurse. That is noble work." His voice carried respect but also curiosity. Naomi shrugged lightly. "It is hard work, but I am thankful. Every day I meet people in pain and sometimes I can give them comfort. I don't always have the medicine or tools I wish I had, but at least I can give them care." The old man leaned forward a little, his hands resting on the side of the bicycle. "And is it enough for you? Do you feel satisfied with this life?" Naomi thought for a moment before answering. "Satisfied? Maybe not fully. Sometimes it feels heavy. My salary is small and my family also depends on me. But still I try to find joy in helping people. It is not easy, but I cannot imagine doing anything else." Her honesty touched the old man. His eyes grew thoughtful and he stayed silent for a while. He watched the street lamps flicker on, one after another, as night slowly settled around them. Then he asked again gently, "Do you have dreams, Naomi? Dreams beyond what you do today?" Naomi smiled, though her eyes grew a little distant. "Yes, I do. I want to open a small clinic one day. Nothing big or grand. Just a simple place where poor families can come without fear of cost. A place where mothers can bring their children, where old people will not be turned away. A place that gives dignity to those who have nothing." As she spoke, her voice gained warmth. She could almost see it in her imagination. The little rooms painted bright, the shelves filled with clean medicines and children laughing outside. For a moment, she forgot the heaviness of her day and allowed herself to dream aloud. The old man listened quietly. His eyes softened with every word, and his wrinkled face grew bright with admiration. He had heard many people talk of ambition in his life, but rarely had he heard someone speak with such sincerity. Naomi's dream was not for herself, but for others. That truth sank deeply into his heart. "You speak with such hope," he said at last. "But hope can be fragile. What keeps you going even when life is heavy?" Naomi chuckled gently. "Sometimes I ask myself the same question. Maybe it is my mother's words. She used to say, 'Kindness will always return to you, Naomi, even if you don't see it right away.' She believed that every act of care plants a seed and one day it grows. I hold on to that." The old man nodded slowly, almost as if those words awakened something in him. He looked down at his hands rough with age and whispered, "Your mother was wise." They walked further, the bicycle creaking softly. The city lights reflected on the road, and people hurried past them without paying much attention. Naomi spoke of her daily life, the long hours at the hospital, the nights when she returned too tired to cook, and the moments when she still managed to laugh with her younger siblings. She told him how sometimes she skipped her own meals so she could bring home food for her family. The old man listened without interruption. His heart grew heavier with each detail, but also warmer with admiration. He had lived long enough to know how rare it was to find someone who carried burdens with such quiet strength. After some time, Naomi hesitated before speaking again. "But there are days when I feel like giving up," she admitted softly. "Days when I think my dream is foolish. Who am I to imagine building a clinic when I can hardly afford my rent? But then I meet someone in pain and I know I must keep going. Even if my dream never happens, at least I will have tried." The old man leaned closer and whispered, "Do not call your dream foolish. The world changes because of people who dare to dream, even when everything is against them. Do not let go of that." Naomi looked at him with surprise. His words carried a weight she did not expect. For a moment she wondered who this old man truly was. His tone was calm, but it carried the certainty of someone who had seen much in life. Still she did not ask. She respected his silence. Instead she said kindly, "Thank you, sir. You speak as if you know what it means to dream big." The old man smiled faintly but said nothing. His eyes looked far away as if they saw memories hidden deep in his heart. Naomi noticed but chose not to press. She felt that everyone carried secrets and this man had his own. They continued through the streets, passing market stalls now closing for the night. The smell of roasted corn and fried plantain filled the air. Naomi's stomach rumbled softly but she ignored it. The old man noticed and asked, "When was the last time you ate, child?" Naomi laughed lightly, almost embarrassed. "This morning, I think. But don't worry, I will eat when I get home." The old man shook his head slowly. "You give so much to others, but you must also care for yourself. Even the strongest tree needs water." His words made Naomi pause. She looked at him curiously again. Who was this man who spoke with such wisdom? She wondered, but she let it pass. The journey grew longer, but neither of them complained. Naomi felt strangely peaceful, as if sharing her story with him had lifted some of her burden. The old man, on the other hand, felt a spark of life return to him. Her kindness had touched him deeply, but her dreams stirred something even greater. In his heart he thought, "This young woman does not know who she speaks to. She does not know what lies behind these simple clothes. But perhaps one day she will." Yet he kept his silence. He did not reveal anything about himself, not yet. Instead he allowed Naomi to believe she was simply helping a poor lost man. He wanted to see how far her kindness would go without expectation of reward. By the time they turned onto another road, the stars had begun to shine above them. The night was calm and the streets quieter. Naomi kept walking, her steps strong even though her legs ached. She did not complain, not once. The old man saw this and in his heart he smiled. For Naomi it was just another night of helping someone in need. For the old man, it was the night he discovered a rare soul, one whose dreams were built not on greed but on compassion. And though he said little about himself, he already knew, this meeting was no accident. At last, after what felt like hours of walking, Naomi slowed her bicycle. Her legs were tired, but her spirit remained calm. She had not thought much about where they were going. Her only focus had been on helping the old man reach his home safely. But as they turned a final corner, her eyes widened. Before them stood a massive gate. Tall iron bars rose high, with golden edges that shone even under the dim light of the street lamps. Beyond the gate, Naomi could see lights glowing from a mansion so large it seemed like a palace. The walls stretched wide and beautiful gardens filled the space behind them. Naomi blinked in disbelief. She looked at the old man sitting quietly on her bicycle. For a moment she thought they had lost their way. Surely this could not be his home. She stopped and said softly, "Excuse me, sir? I think we may have come to the wrong place." But before the old man could answer, the heavy gates creaked open. Two guards in crisp uniforms rushed forward. Their eyes, sharp and professional just seconds earlier, softened instantly when they saw the old man. "Chief Adewale," one of them exclaimed with respect. They both bowed their heads slightly as they hurried to his side. Naomi froze. The words rang in her ears, Chief Adewale. She had heard that name before. Everyone in the city had. Chief Adewale was one of the richest men, known for his businesses, his properties, and his influence. People spoke of him with awe, often mixing respect with fear. Some even said he was wealthier than anyone could truly count. Naomi turned slowly to look at the man she had pushed on her bicycle all evening. His clothes were simple, his sandals worn, and his manner so humble. Could this really be the same Chief Adewale? The guards reached him quickly, offering to help him down from the bicycle. "Sir, we were worried. We did not know where you had gone, one guard said. The old man, Chief Adewale, raised a hand gently, silencing them. His voice remained calm. Do not worry. I am safe. This young woman brought me home. Both guards turned their eyes toward Naomi. Their expressions softened, mixed with gratitude and surprise. They had never seen their master arrive home in such a way, on the back of an old bicycle, guided by a tired but kind nurse. Naomi stepped back nervously, her hands gripping the bicycle handles. She whispered almost to herself, Chief Adewale, I did not know. I'm sorry, I thought. Chief Adewale looked at her and smiled kindly. Do not be sorry, Naomi. You treated me as a man, not as a title. That is rare and it is precious. Her heart raced as she tried to process the truth. All this time she had spoken openly about her life, her struggles, and her dreams. She had believed she was helping an ordinary old man. She had even laughed, complained about her rent, and admitted her fears. Now she realized she had been sharing her heart with one of the most powerful men in the city. Naomi lowered her head in embarrassment. If I had known, sir, I would have. Chief Adewale interrupted gently. If you had known, perhaps you would have treated me differently. But I am glad you did not know. I saw your true kindness, not kindness shaped by fear or admiration. The guards looked at one another, surprised by their master's words. They stepped back respectfully, giving space for the strange moment that unfolded. Naomi felt her cheeks warm. She wanted to leave quickly to escape the weight of her own nervousness. She said softly, I am glad you are safe now, sir. I will go. But as she turned her bicycle, Chief Adewale's voice stopped her. Wait, Naomi. She froze. Slowly she looked back at him. His eyes, calm and thoughtful, held hers. You told me about your dream, he said, his voice steady but gentle. You spoke of opening a small clinic for the poor. Do you remember? Naomi swallowed hard and nodded. Yes, sir. But it was only a dream. It is not something I can achieve now. Chief Adewale smiled faintly, his eyes glowing with something Naomi could not yet understand. Dreams that are born from kindness should not be buried. You showed me respect though you did not know who I was. You showed me compassion though you owed me nothing. That is the kind of heart the world needs. Do not give up on your dream, Naomi. One day, it may come true in ways you cannot imagine. Naomi felt her throat tighten. His words touched her deeply, but they also confused her. Why would such a wealthy and powerful man care about the dreams of a simple nurse? The guards gently guided Chief Adewale toward the open gate. Before entering, he turned once more to Naomi. Go home and rest. Your kindness has not gone unnoticed. Naomi stood still, her hands trembling slightly on her bicycle handles. She watched as the great gates closed behind him, shutting her out of a world she had never imagined stepping near. For a long moment she stayed there, staring at the golden crest on the iron bars. Her mind raced. The man she had helped, the man she had spoken to with such honesty, was not just any man. He was Chief Adewale, the billionaire people spoke of in whispers. Slowly, Naomi began to pedal away, her thoughts heavy but her heart strangely light. She did not know what would come of this night. She did not know if she would ever see him again. But one thing was certain. Her act of kindness had carried her farther than she could ever have planned. And though the world around her remained the same, the streets quiet, the stars glowing above, something inside Naomi had changed. She whispered to herself, maybe my mother was right. Kindness always returns. Naomi gripped the handles of her bicycle, hoping to slip away quietly before her cheeks grew any warmer. The night air felt heavy around her, filled with the echo of what had just happened. She had brought home not an ordinary old man, but Chief Adewale, the billionaire whose name carried weight across the city. Her heart raced with a mixture of disbelief and embarrassment. She thought if she could just leave silently, perhaps she could pretend it had all been a dream. But just as she began to push her bicycle forward, she heard his voice again, calm yet firm. Naomi, Chief Adewale called gently. She stopped at once, her body stiff. Slowly she turned her head back toward the great gate. He was standing there, supported slightly by one of the guards, his eyes fixed on her with kindness. You should not leave without hearing my gratitude, he said. If you had walked past me on the street tonight, I may still be lost. But you stopped. You cared. Not because you expected anything, not because you knew who I was, but because your heart told you to help. That is a rare gift. Naomi lowered her head, her voice barely above a whisper. I only did what was right, sir. He nodded slowly as if her words pleased him. That is exactly why it means so much. The guards shifted, clearly eager to lead their master inside to rest, but Chief Adewale raised a hand to silence them. His eyes remained on Naomi, studying her not with the gaze of a powerful man but with the warmth of someone who saw value in the smallest acts. Naomi's chest tightened with a strange feeling. She did not know what to say. So, after a small pause, she only bowed her head again and murmured, "Good night, sir." She left the mansion that evening, her thoughts spinning. On the road home, she kept replaying the moment in her mind. The gates, the guards, and the billionaire who had spoken her name with such care. Still, she believed their paths would not cross again. He belonged to a world of gold and power, while she returned to her small rented room, her worn-out shoes, and her long shifts at the hospital. But she was wrong. The next morning, as Naomi prepared for another tiring day at the clinic where she worked, a sleek black car pulled up outside. People stared in shock as two well-dressed men stepped out and asked for her. Naomi froze, her hand still holding the strap of her worn bag. "Miss Naomi?" one of them asked politely. "Yes," she answered, nervous. "Chief Adewale requests your presence," the man said with a respectful bow of his head. Gasps filled the air around her. Her colleagues exchanged curious looks, whispering as they watched Naomi being guided into the expensive car. She sat silently in the back seat, her heart pounding. She did not know what awaited her, but she knew her life was about to change. When they arrived at the mansion, Naomi was led into a large sitting room filled with bookshelves, art, and quiet elegance. Chief Adewale sat there, looking rested and calm. He smiled when he saw her. "Naomi," he greeted warmly. "Thank you for coming." She bowed slightly. "Good morning, sir." He gestured for her to sit. "I have been thinking about our conversation yesterday," he began. "You spoke of your dream, to build a small clinic for poor families. Do you still wish for that?" Naomi hesitated. Her fingers twisted nervously in her lap. "Yes, sir, but it is only a dream. I do not have the money or the land. It is something I only pray about." Chief Adewale leaned forward, his voice steady but gentle. "Dreams that come from compassion are the most important dreams of all. You gave me your kindness without knowing who I was. Now allow me to return kindness to you. I will help you build that clinic." Naomi's eyes widened. For a moment she thought she had misheard. "Sir?" "Yes," he said firmly. "I will provide the support. The land, the funds, the resources, you will have them. But the heart, the care, and the dedication must come from you. That is what will make the clinic alive." Naomi's lips trembled. Tears filled her eyes, but she tried to hold them back. She whispered, "Why me, sir? There are many people in this city who deserve more." Chief Adewale smiled softly. "Because you stopped for an old man on the street when others would have passed by. Because you pushed your bicycle for hours without complaint. Because you shared your struggles openly and your dreams honestly. You did not see a billionaire, you only saw a human being in need. That is the kind of heart that changes the world." Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks then, and she quickly wiped them with the back of her hand. She whispered, "Thank you, sir. I don't know how to repay you." "You already have," he said simply. In the days that followed, everything Naomi once thought impossible began to take shape. Land was secured, builders were hired, and plans were drawn for the small clinic she had only dreamed about. Chief Adewale visited often, not as a wealthy man checking his money, but as a friend guiding her gently through the process. When the clinic finally opened months later, families from all over the city came to see it. Children received care, mothers found help, and fathers who could not afford hospitals found healing. At the front of the building, carved into stone, were words that made Naomi's heart swell every time she saw them. The Naomi Community Clinic, built on kindness. News of the story spread across the city and beyond. People told and retold it with wonder. The nurse who rode a billionaire home on her bicycle, not knowing who he was, and received more than she ever imagined. Some called it a miracle, others called it fate. But for Naomi, it was simply proof that kindness never goes to waste. She continued her work with the same humility as before. She never boasted, never treated herself as special. She only smiled whenever people asked how it all happened. Her answer was always the same. "One night, I helped a man because it was the right thing to do. That was all." But deep in her heart, Naomi knew it was more than that. It was the night that showed her the power of kindness, greater than riches, stronger than titles, brighter than fear. And for Chief Adewale, it was the night he remembered what true wealth really was. Not gold, not power, but the kindness of a stranger. The story lived on, told again and again, a reminder that even the smallest act of compassion could open doors no one expected. Naomi's bicycle remained by her side always, a quiet symbol of the journey that changed her life forever.